Arts, featuring Command Combat Civil War. Today's battle will be taken out of the 1862 rulebook, which means that the units will all be out of there. We're doing a scenario of defense, attack, which is sort of appropriate for that period because that's a lot of when the Confederates are using fortifications and that sort of thing. Here is our battlefield. We're using a 4x4 one this time. Last time we did 3x3, and we're building up to 6x4, which is the standard size, but we wanted to show that this type of game can be done on smaller tables as well, and larger ones that can, scale very well. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the pieces, and then they'll come out here and be set up. These are our opposing forces. Let's take a look at the Confederates first. Their corps is led by General Hardee, who is reliable, and he can use a roll from one turn and use it on the next. Both the initial roll and the one that he uses it for have to be in his command radius, but it can be really powerful because if you roll really, really well on firing, one turn, the very next turn you can use that roll again. He can do it once per turn. Then for his first division, he has General Ruggles, and he has the special ability to be able to mix artillery from the various commands. So he has some artillery and some enough to kind of guard the artillery, but that's about it. And the other division is clearly more of the infantry one. He's got two brigades. One of them is the Orphan Brigade. They actually have a blue marker, which implies they are veteran. Actually, they're green, but we'll just leave that there to mark that they are the Orphan Brigade. They have a special ability where they can charge, and they can keep rolling to make sure that they charge. They can keep rolling their morale, but as the more they fail, the more troops that they lose. And they have a bunch of artillery to sort of support them and help defend if they need to. They're led by General Clark, who has no special ability, but he's a sort of average commander. And this is what's really going to protect them. If they seem kind of small, it's because what they really have is defensive works. It is medium defensive works, which they purchased for because it's going to be a defense scenario and they're going to be on the defense, so they're going to use that. That's the medium works that can be bought for the first time in the 1862 rulebook. The Union Corps is led by General Rosecrans, who has the special ability to lead from the front, so he can actually give extra morale to troops that he's near, but he becomes easier to hit at that particular point. He has a signal tower, so he can send orders way across the battlefield rather than having to rely on couriers. He has a division run by Slocum, who has a sort of an ability to be able to shuffle troops from one brigade to another. And in that division, he has the Iron Brigade, which has some sharpshooters in it. That's actually not an extra unit, that is just pointing out that they have sharpshooters in there among them. They are really good with morale, as they can, essentially their morale gets twice as good as pretty much anybody else, plus they're veteran. So they pretty much aren't going to break unless they're in the heat of battle. That's the only possibility to cause them to break. You've got some green infantry here, some standard infantry, green infantry right there, you can see by the little marker that's there, and then some standard infantry as well. So they are really the infantry division. They can, and like I said, Slocum can mix and match units within them, so he can actually feed more into the standard unit from the green unit. He also has some artillery there as well to support him. Over here we have Meade's division. He has a special ability of defending on hills, so he has the artillery with him along with a couple of small brigades to sort of help defend the artillery. Now we don't actually have the units for what he has, so we just used rifle artillery units. It's 2 howitzers, which is supposed to be rifled howitzers, so it kind of matches, and a 100-pounder. Now this gun would be much bigger. It's huge, it's a siege gun, it really doesn't get moved. It just has to be placed somewhere and fired, but it's really good against fortifications, so it is going to be great against that Confederate fortification. We're going to have to see how that goes out on the battlefield. Speaking of which, let's see how everybody sets up. And the two sides are set up. We have the Confederates defending their objectives. The Union has chosen this town, actually specifically the large building, and these woods as their objectives. The Confederates have a division guarding each. They have got, who is this? They've got Ruggles' division defending this part, and that is the Orphan Brigade, which is large but green, along that trench line, and they've got some artillery guarding. They've got some rifled artillery up here, and that is the beginning of Clark's division that is smaller and defending this particular part. So they're going to have a division guarding that objective and a division guarding that objective. The Union only has one division at the very beginning, because in this scenario, they get one division on the table, and then the other brigades come in, one brigade per road. You'll notice that the Confederates have chosen a side that, so the Union had no choice but to have a side without any roads. So now they're going to get one brigade on every other turn, meaning the rest of them are going to be coming in very, very slowly. So, and in rolling for how many turns they have, it's going to be a small one. It's only going to be 10 turns. So they're going to have to get on here quickly. The Union has chosen a division that doesn't have a lot of infantry. Instead, they have a lot of artillery to soften them up. It is 2 howitzers. Those I know are not howitzers, but that's the miniatures I have. And a 100-pounder. Again, we don't have a 100-pounder miniature, so that's what it's going to be. They're all rifled, so using that. And it's backed up by two small brigades of infantry, but enough to be kind of a guard for that. They also have the signal tower along with a flag stand, so if they bring in more troops from this side, the signal person can send the orders. And of course you have Rosecrans right back here, so he can send the order up there and it can be sent wherever it is needed. So that's it at the beginning. Let's see how this plays out and who's going to emerge victorious. First turn goes as expected. The Union artillery fired to try to soften them up. They actually did not hit, which actually was a little bit of a surprise, and the Orphan Brigade held on their defense. So their General Clark is keeping them going, and the Orphan Brigade themselves are essentially going, oh no, we ain't gonna go nowhere. Oh, by the way, we had forgotten to put the markers out for orders, and it's no surprise they're all on defense. Pretty much expected. Second turn, and just no luck for the Federals. They continue to try to bombard the Orphan Brigade, and they just continue to hold without taking any casualties, which is rather remarkable. I guess because they can't hit, they're being easily rallied by General Clark right here. The Federals have brought in one brigade of Slocum's division. It's the Iron Brigade, so we're going to see them starting to rush in. In fact, Slocum was put onto a white order so they can rush in. Meade, by the way, is in charge of the division that's already on the table, and that incompetent artillery that just can't seem to do anything. Interesting turn here. The first thing you can probably notice is that the Orphan Brigade is no longer at their trench line. Actually, the Federals still did not do any damage to them, but the morale is really high up there. Actually, for those of you who don't understand that, when you don't hit in a game this large, where every stand represents lots of people, it doesn't mean you aren't hitting people. You're hitting people, you're just not doing effective damage. So they were apparently killing enough people, and it was gory enough that it didn't show on the board, but it did scare them into running. They are routing, oddly enough. It really came down to they needed to roll a 1 to rout, and they rolled a 1. Out of a 10-sided dice, that's not very common. So now the middle is open, ready for the Union to exploit it. But the movement phase is first, and they had already chosen to go around the far side over towards this division. So, and being that there's a hill there, they don't really see, I guess through this gap they would see this happen, and they would be like, oh, dang it. Anyway, they're already on the move up here. Everybody's been given a white order to move up quickly. That means that's as far as they can go before now they're going to have to turn into a red order to continue moving at them. For those of you who don't know, blue order means you can defend, but you can't move up to a certain distance of the enemy. White means you can move faster, but you also can't move too close to the enemy. Red means you can move wherever you want, but you have no special advantage to defense or movement. So here's where we are at this turn. Turn 3. Very interesting turn here. The board might look a bit different because a lot happened. Let's start with the bombardments. The Confederate artillery has been firing the Federals, but had little chance, but this time they actually did a bit of damage to those howitzers. The howitzers, meanwhile, and the 100-pounders switched their fire over to here and really took out a lot of the men over there on the flank. Apparently they're better at shooting this brigade than they were the other, even though they had a lesser chance of hitting, because close range is less effective for rifled artillery. But hey, they're doing some damage over there. The Federals, meanwhile, moved up into here. They actually got quite a bit further, But some firing happened from this Confederate line. You can see the damage there. And it caused them to pull back. Well, in fact, they didn't just pull back. They were there, they got hit, and General Slocum got hit. In fact, he had a terrible death, which means the morale gets worse for everybody around him. They went running back, that brigade went running back into the Iron Brigade, and both of them went into disorder. So it's kind of a mess here in the Federal lines, while the Confederate lines, while being damaged, is still effective. Turn 5, and bad day to be Union artillery, probably a good day to be Confederate ones. They fired over here at the Union, but as you can see, they went low on ammo, didn't really do a lot. Over here, however, they were a bit more effective. They actually took out their artillery. I don't know if you saw last turn, they had been hit once. I don't think I mentioned it. They had smoke on them, which meant they had been hit once, and now they're hit again, and that takes them out. And this artillery, which hasn't been very useful all this time, actually silenced this artillery. So it's been sort of an artillery duel this turn, because the infantry, the Union infantry, is staying back far enough that they cannot be seen by the Confederate infantry, so they're holding off on each other. And a lot of the Confederates have decided that they're going to start shifting over here, starting to move this direction towards where the main fight is going on. And that's halfway through the game now. Oh, yes, one last thing. This is why it was bad to be Union artillery as well. Not only was this one silenced and this one destroyed, but this one went low on ammo, so all of their main artillery is having problems at this point in time. Turn 6 was pretty quiet. It's sort of the quiet before the storm. The artillery duel continued, but with the Confederate artillery low on ammo, they weren't particularly effective. The ammo is coming up, however, the supply wagons are way over here, so it's taking a little bit of time to get up there. The Federal artillery was a little more useful. They fired over here and whittled down a little bit of the Confederate infantry that is guarding over here, getting ready, and that's going to help the Federal cause as their two divisions get prepared to come in for their obvious attack. Reinforcements are coming in, though. General Clark went next to General Hardee, who said, hey, get over there quickly, so he gave him a white order. They are now marching quicker to get over there to reinforce that front. Some artillery is going over there, too, so this is going to be a really big main push. We'll see how it goes. And the fight is on. They have engaged here between them. A lot of firing going back and forth, not a lot of casualties. In fact, I don't think there were any on the Union side. Over here, they went into disorder. That's because they have not only a lot of infantry shooting at them, but they also have that artillery. There's also a major catfight going on over there. Oh, they're looking at each other now, so we'll kind of get away from that PDA. Anyway, alright, so they all along the line, they're firing at each other. The Union has come up. They're firing through woods, which is one of the reasons for fewer casualties. By the way, I didn't mention before, this brigade has taken over command of their division. That's what happens when a division commander is killed. One of the brigades is assigned as a division commander, and all along here they have a red order to go attack, and more reinforcements are coming up. So it's looking good for the Federals, because the Confederates are barely hanging on there. However, they're firing with everything they have, and they have reinforcements coming on, and here's their main enemy. Time. It is turn 7. Now, officially, we went by the rule of, basically it's supposed to start with 20 turns, and that was the basic rule until the 1863 rule book came along. And then we added a rule where you roll a couple dice to see how late in the day you've gotten there, and you only have that much time to take over. So we got halfway through the day, so there's only 10 turns. However, if this is going good enough, we may just go for the full 20, because officially this rule wasn't added until the 1863 rule book. We're doing the 1862 rule book, so that rule actually technically shouldn't be there. So we might go past that. But for now, the Federals are feeling the crunch for hurrying up. Coming to you mid-turn, the charge has begun, and the Iron Brigade has broken through on this particular side, destroying almost everybody. All that's left is the flag stand. They are getting slaughtered over there. However, the Orphan Brigade is waiting for them. Two named brigades going against each other, and the charge over here did not go so well. This brigade charged forward, got hit by all of that infantry and that artillery. Now you'll notice the artillery is behind the infantry. In this particular game, when you butt them up right behind the infantry, it means that they are mixed in with them. So essentially you had double canister from a smoothbore artillery. Smoothbore is very good with canister at short range, just plastered them. Plus you had the commander right there ordering his men on, rooting them on. So they went running back through here, put these men into disorder, and they killed General Slocum. So the two Union division commanders are gone. Actually, they didn't kill him, he's unconscious, but still, they have knocked out both Union division commanders, so they're going to have quite a bit of problems here at this particular time. At the end of this very eventful turn, it has become all about this flank. The Confederates have held off on their right, however, they have gone into disorder thanks to the 100-pounder continuing to fire away at them. He can just barely see them, but he is hurting their morale. The Federals have meanwhile broken through here because of the Iron Brigade, but it is being shored up by the Orphan Brigade, who are backed up by some artillery there. The Iron Brigade does have reinforcements coming up, but they have lost their division commander, so next turn the Federals will not be able to move that division, the Slocum's, or Meade's former division. He's the one who was knocked unconscious. They will have to take a turn to regroup and determine who's going to be in charge. So now all the Confederates are moving all of their reinforcements over there to try to shore up their position. We were on turn 8, and so we've only got 2 official turns left, but we might go on for the regular amount of time. Alright, so we're just going to cover this side of the board now because everything is happening there. The Iron Brigade was only able to rally since the division commander was taken out. They are actually placed in command. Actually, we need to put the marker by them. This is what you do. You essentially put the marker next to them. They are now in command. That's their order is red. Some of the other division, though, they had some infantry that moved up there. That was Meade's former division, so they were stuck. But this one was Slocum's former division, so they have moved up there. Some artillery behind them. Rosecrans is leading from the front. That's his special ability. Actually, he gets a bonus when leading from the front, so he is being used there. And they are all getting ready for another attack. A great climactic turn here. We were considering going past turn 10, but the battle decided for us. The Iron Brigade went in charging the Orphan Brigade there, and they were led by General Rosecrans, the Corps Commander, who usually doesn't go in on charges, but he was desperate for one, and he has the ability to lead from the front, meaning that he helps their morale by 2 points. And he gave it to them, and they needed it because they got hit by double canister right there with a smoothbore artillery and a long line of Confederates there in the woods. Even though they're the Iron Brigade, they needed help with their morale. They passed it, but in leading from the front, he made it easier to hit him, and they got exactly what they needed. They knocked him unconscious. He was not able to continue with them, but they charged in there. His sacrifice was not in vain. They got in there. They were both taking casualties, both the Armed Brigade and the Iron Brigade, and the Confederate general there, General Clark, got taken down as well, but he had a heroic death, which boosted the morale of his men. They continued to fight. They went a couple of turns with the Iron Brigade. Both were taking major casualties for a while, but finally, at last, the Iron Brigade lost their morale by 1. The Orphan Brigade got exactly what they needed. They stood their ground. The Orphan Brigade pulled back by 1, and with all of the Union generals either dead or unconscious, there's no one to push them forward, and there wasn't a lot to continue to push forward anyway. The Confederates have plugged their gap. It was going to be really hard for them to get through there. So that will do it for us here at Command Combat Battle Reports using Command Combat Civil War, what this channel was made for. We hope that you enjoy it, and we hope you subscribe. There will be more of these videos every week. There's going to be a new Command Combat Civil War, and of course there are other videos of ours throughout the week. Happy gaming, everybody!